Challenge was launched in 1997, and ever since its inception has shown game show content that we as viewers have adored in the years gone by. Pointless, Bullseye, Funhouse, Catchphrase, and Who Wants to Be a Millionaire are just some of the many examples of shows that Challenge broadcasts out. But what of its own brand representation? Well, today we'll be looking at some ident sets from just under and over 10 years ago. These certainly weren't the first idents for Challenge, but they're the first where there is enough footage to show you. So with that, we'll start with the ident set introduced first in 2008, with this first variant titled Hot Air Balloon.
It's over to Jim Bowen now on Challenge for a double bill of arrow action. Super smashing great. Let's step up to the oche, shall we?
Okay, seeing that for the first time, this gave me a bit of a Nickelodeon vibe. The ident itself is quite simple, short and straightforward. We see a nice nature-esque landscape with an orange hot air balloon soaring in the sky, only for it to explode and splatter into the Challenge logo. And once again, the logo itself feels very Nickelodeon. It's probably mainly down to the orange colours that the logo incorporates, but I can't help but make the comparison. And hopefully you guys can see what I mean as well. Anyhow, moving on, let's look at our next ident today, Beach Ball.
The Family Fortunes audience hears innuendo in every little innocent survey this evening, and it doesn't help that Les has to tell them off, getting the giggles in the worst way after Strike It Rich.
Right then, well it seems the simple nature of this set is going to stick. Once more we are treated to one static landscape, this time of a beach with a very colourful umbrella. We see the beach ball bounce along and explode, and the more I watch of these, the more tempted I am to say they were definitely somewhat inspired by Nickelodeon's form of presentation. The logo actually gives me somewhat of a 1970s vibe. I can describe it, but it's something to do with the offshooting blobs. They just seem very 70s in style. But random ramblings aside, let's look at our next ident, which is baseball cap. I can see for some this may be confusingly named. Some would wish to title this sequence Roller Coaster, as that is the obvious feature of the ident. However, it's baseball cap, as that of course is the thing that explodes into the Challenge logo. There's not really that much else to say. It's the same simple style as the others so far. There's nothing necessarily bad about it. I guess its only crime is that maybe it is too simple and doesn't do enough to grasp the viewer. But still, nice and harmless. And now for our final ident of the 2008 set, we have Paper Plane.
Get the lowdown on all the latest releases in Game Face on Challenge on Saturday night at 11. Now, it's back to Bully.
Okay, sadly now this set comes across as a bit dull. This one, like the others, isn't inherently bad. There is technically variety in the different locations, and also a different focus point in each one, but aside from the exploding objects into the Challenge logo, there's really nothing to these. I know Challenge isn't one of the big hitter channels and probably doesn't see the greatest amount of audience viewership. However, in a world where we have hundreds of TV channels and an endless supply of what to watch, I just feel that the channel could have done so much more to make itself stand out. Sure, it'll have a core audience, me included, but more definitely needed to be done back in 2008. But now we move forward to 2011, and Challenge completely rebranded its image and ident's roster. So here is the first of this set, Cube. So if the last set made me think of the 70s, this definitely makes me think of the 80s. The sequence has obviously been designed with the image of a Rubik's Cube in mind. A Rubik's Cube was and still is one of the most recognised pieces of 80s iconography out there, and to see all these pieces move around and eventually reveal the Challenge name, it's simple enough, yeah, but it presents us with something we all know. Something bright and colourful, and something that gets us in the mood for a game show. I also love the new Challenge logo. The colour combinations, the speech bubble mixed with the pixelated texts, it just screams 1980s right at you. But now, let's move on to our next ident, named Fruit Machine. Another use of recognisable iconography. A fruit machine has been commonplace in pubs for decades now, and we've all had a go on one or wanted to when our parents wouldn't let us. I like the little visual touch with the last column, which waits on a bit of a jagged edge before slotting into place. Again, we've all had this happen with real fruit machines. I think I prefer the shifting focus of the cube ident, but this fruit machine variant still echoes the same charm and impact. Moving right along now, let's have a look at Pong. Now here's a classic. I know Pong is obviously associated with the 1970s and the early rise of video games into our culture, but think of it this way. The 1980s was still a time for those classic 8-bit graphics, both simple and complex, and even though Pong predates that even, I'm sure it's something a lot of 80s kids still associate with that decade. I mean, of course, there isn't much to the sequence at all, just a game of Pong being played with a colour-changing challenge logo front and centre. But once more, it's the use of such an iconic thing that makes this work, and makes it stand out amongst the crowd. They were definitely going with a theme here. But let's see what our next ident holds with Cuddly Toy. Okay, honestly, this one just baffles me. I can't get my head around what it's supposed to be. The Ident Gallery website names it as Cuddly Toy, and yeah, I can see the teddy bear in the lineup here, but what on earth am I supposed to get from this? A theory could be that I'm being completely dim and that this lineup structure is echoing some sort of sequence from a game show, but I can't be 100% certain of that. If you know what this is all about, please let me know in the comments because I'm honestly lost with it. So let's move quickly along to something hopefully a bit more straightforward. Letters. Oh, something a bit more recognisable. Although not as iconic as, say, the cube, fruit machine or Pong variants, this ident still manages to evoke the familiar, yet remain charmingly simple in its execution. Seeing letter-printed blocks fall from the sky is something that could make you think of a number of cultural landmarks. Tetris for one, or those annoying stacker machines you see in like every arcade nowadays ever. So whilst it's not the most memorable of the set, it still does have its appeal. But next up today, we shall have a look at Tilting Puzzle. They were really going for emulating various different games, weren't they? This reminds me of one of those wooden-made marble puzzles that used to appear in all kinds of gift shops, the goal being to tilt the board and thus the marble around the maze to reach the goal. I like the effect of the challenge logo itself acting as the board here, the designers making a maze-like environment, the goal being reached sort of unlocking it into morphing into the closing logo. Once more, it's simple in how it plays, but it shows you something that most people will instantaneously recognise and react to. So our next ident is actually quite a special one of sorts. To celebrate the revival of blockbusters on the channel, here is, well, blockbusters.
Forget the fastest milkman in the West. Tonight it's all about the fastest fingers with classic Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, here at 9 on Challenge.
A nice little tease for an upcoming show. For the fans of the show Blockbusters, this was probably a nice treat for them to see an ident specially created to honour this show's return. And what I like is, it doesn't even show you the full letters on each of the panels, but it's enough to tell you what they are, a nice little lead-in for you to tune into the revival. But now to close off this set that originated in 2011, we have two Christmas variants for you, that were used during the Christmases of both 2011 and 2012.
All new and viciously sparkly in their little spandex outfits, TNA presents Impact Wrestling tomorrow night at 9 here on Challenge.
A short but sweet little taste of Christmas with these two. The first one mimics the game of shuffling something underneath 3 cups, but in this instance we have what looks like Christmas hats shuffling around before revealing the challenge logo. The second one also goes for a set of 3 shifting things, but instead of them all being the same, This time it's 3 separate images, all shifting around like one of those rotating block structures you used to have as a kid. These are definitely not the best Christmas idents in history, there are far better, but these do their job of incorporating imagery and sounds that remind us all of the festive Christmas time. Nicely done, challenge. Nicely done. So what to take away from these earlier ident sets for challenge? Well, across both the 2008 and 2011 sets, they're all quite simple in their structure and design, and as I've said in previous episodes, there's nothing inherently wrong with that at all, but in the 2008 set's case, it's too simple without enough kick to stick in the viewer's mind. The 2011 set does a much greater job of this, incorporating familiar game-playing pastimes into the idents to make something that at least people recognise and associate with a channel that's dedicated to game shows. However, as the 2010s progressed, Challenge's idents would continue to evolve and change, and its progression we shall cover in a future episode. And so we've come to the end, but before we go, the final words from our broadcaster. That was all this week for this instalment of the Ident Review. I hope you all enjoyed watching it, and we hope that you tune in next week. You have the Now Review to look forward to, as well as the latest episode of After These Messages. And don't forget to tune into the Sunday catch-up, have your questions at the ready. But until then, have a good week, and we hope that you join us again soon. Good night.